Everything is fine here on Detention Block AA23, a Star Wars podcast. I'm Mike, joined by Dustin and Bogey, here to talk. Well, I don't know how much Star Wars we're actually going to talk today, but we will talk some Star Wars. It's kind of a slow time as we continue to express podcast to podcast, but there are other topics we could talk about, but we're going to steer clear of some of those things. There's a lot of opinions going around, and we won't delve into that. I'll get the business aspects out of the way really quick. So bring us your likes, follows, downloads, hit that subscribe button, bring us your ratings, reviews, everything and anything. We greatly appreciate it. Any little thing you do does go a long way in getting our podcast name out there amongst all the other Star Wars channels and podcasts, which there are hundreds of them. So we greatly appreciate it. And our chat is up and running today. So bring us your questions or comments or ideas, and we will bring you in as part of the show. So what's going on, fellas? What's happening?
We're in spooky season, baby.
Spooky season, Halloween time. I know Dustin, he sent me a picture not too long ago about some decorating stuff and how much he loves this time of year. It's 1B to 1A of Christmas to him.
Yep,
So
100%.
tell us about your decorating.
Yeah, well, it's easy. I like the inflatables, that you just plug in and they're just easy. Although I'm having a issue with some of them. You can buy them on Amazon. They're pretty inexpensive, which also means you get a pretty cheaply made item. And some of the straps that are on the bottom that hold the thing are will break. And then, you just have an inflatable floating in the wind. So,
Make sure to keep that fan clear of snow. I've had issues with that in the past where I leave it out, it's exposed, and then get
yeah.
6 inches of snow that builds up in the fan and just completely destroys it and then doesn't inflate again. I had a Darth Vader inflatable that was really cool that I no longer have, that broke. But
Well, and I know you're more into decorating for Christmas, so hopefully I don't have to deal with that as much in October. But I mean, there's also something about September going into October, the season's really changing, getting that crisp fall air, which is really, really nice. I think sometimes too there's that negative of getting into winter, right? So people are getting
oh yeah,
people say the Sunday scaries. I think people are getting the winter scaries.
I always have the winter scaries. I
But I
hate
mean,
the
I
winter.
know I love winter now more than I used to, just because of the things I enjoy doing, like ice fishing. I've gotten much more into,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I just love it. I love the movies that you can watch, right? Hocus Pocus, Beetlejuice. I mean, obviously the horror movies that are out. I'm not so much into gore, so I'm not watching like Friday the 13th or the Terrifier
The
movies.
slasher movies.
I'm not really into that. I don't like. It kind of boggles my mind that people are into that. I have a hard time grasping the concept of wanting to see people brutally murdered by another human
Are you
being.
more concerned about the people who want to watch it, or are you more concerned about the people who created those shows?
Both, but you know, I mean, I love the Alien franchise, and there's a lot of horror in there, but it's like a creature doing that as
It's a
opposed to,
creature feature.
well, yeah. So, but other than that, definitely love October. And sporting wise, it's a great month because you have you know football kind of in full fledged, both college and NFL. You have hockey starting. You have playoff baseball, which unfortunately none of our teams are in it, but it's still really fun to watch. Yes, and then you have the NBA starting, which I'm not super into, but now that I'm in Wisconsin, my family loves that stuff. So I mean, there's just a lot to love about October. I think. In fact, I was listening to a podcast and they ranked the months. I think October is like number one
Okay.
for people's favorite month.
Well, and speaking of sports, don't forget WNBA. I know Bogey was just watching that, and unfortunately, the Lynx lost game 3, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Hey, best of 5, so there's still
There's still
time.
hope. There's
There's
still
still
hope.
If
hope.
there's anything more reliable than Minnesota sports letting you down, I don't know what.
It's so true. And I can say, I mean, I'm a Gopher fan, so I can definitely relate. And I like the Twins. I like the Wild. They're not, those two aren't my number one teams, but I do cheer for them. But to your point though, Dustin, October can be another heartbreaking month for sports fans, though, baseball fans. I know my heart's still broken about my Brewers losing in such horrible fashion, but yes, football is full fledged. And hey, both of our teams are doing really well. So the Vikings are undefeated. The Packers are 4-2. Both teams are looking really strong. So we'll see. We'll see how
Is that
everything.
curse still going? I'm gonna check the box score right now. I know because I was two.
Oh, with the Brewers.
Yeah. Okay. LA's up 4-0 on the
Yeah.
Mets.
Yep. Game
But
3
I
there
mean,
too.
the series is tied 1-1. You would think LA might possibly sweep the Mets, but your theory
On
might
paper,
hold
they,
true.
they
Might
should.
might hold true that they make it to the World
Well, it's
Series.
not just a theory, it's fact that
There's fact.
10 out of the last 10 times the team that the Brewers lose to go to the World Series. So, um, but Dustin, you were mentioning like slasher movies or gore movies. I'm the same way. I'm not like a big gore fan. But Bogey and we were talking about like the Saw movies and everything. Like, I don't like the gore aspect of those movies, the Saw movie specifically, but I love the like puzzle element to it. I think that's really fascinating. I know when I'm watching a movie, I'm always like trying to figure these things out. So, um,
I do. I cannot watch Saw movies.
well,
I mean,
I
that is
turn
like
away. And hey, Chester Bennington is in one of them. Like
dude, no, like
R.I.P.
that is again like I mean, some of the just absolute horrific things that happen in those movies.
Yeah, the worst way to die. What
Yeah,
about like
not my cup
what
of
about like
tea.
The Shining? Will you watch that?
Yeah, that's yes, I will. The Shining is good, but there's like a mythology to that,
And
right?
a
It's
psychological
supernatural,
aspect to it. Yeah.
right? Or like the Conjuring movies. I'll watch those.
Oh, okay.
Right. Um, it's just like
Paranormal
when you
Activity.
talk about literally a psychopath that is abducting people and then putting them into pretty much a no-win situation and taking delight out of watching them suffer extremely and then dying in horrific ways. I find absolutely no joy in that, and I just have a hard time understanding the people who do. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I just don't
You
understand.
can't relate. You can't relate. Right.
No, just just it's horrific, man. Like, and put yourself in those people's situations as you're watching those movies. I think the people enjoying that like that just can't put themselves. They're like, "Oh, this will never happen to me," and it probably never will, right? But like, just the fact that it's on screen, I don't know. To me, when I watch movies, I almost like put myself in the character situations, and it's horrific. So,
I got this for you, Dustin. I can imagine your idea right now. What if it was Saw, but with the droids from season one?
oh god, well then I watch it. Hell yeah.
Just being just brutally just disemparted and everything.
Roger. Did we
So
lose Mike? Okay,
you lost me momentarily. What did I miss? How did you get to the Roger part?
Well, we
He
were
was
talking
talking about Saw for the clone robots,
Oh,
Clone Wars
the
robots.
the droids from Clone Wars.
well, hey, there's the zombies from the Ahsoka movies or show, so there's always that. You like Bogey, I forget, do you like the slasher movies?
Yeah, I'm a wide open book of I'll enjoy everything. Yeah, well, some
So, what
things
do
be a
you
little.
enjoy about them?
What was that, Dustin?
What do you enjoy about them?
What, like specifically Saw?
Yeah, like okay,
Or
I just like the one scene I saw this guy in the contraption that like literally twists until like he's ripped apart. Like that is horrible. Like I I can't sleep after things like that happen. Now I'm not going to be able to sleep because I talked about it. Now it's in my brain hole.
And the one thing I do appreciate about like the Saw saga, granted they hit or miss, but it was more like just I love like it's kind of like you had your Thanos, and here you had John Kramer, who was treated poorly. He identified people that needed like a wake up call. He's like, no one appreciates life until life is literally about to end.
I could think of a million different ways to give a wake up call to those people.
But sometimes you really need because these stories of some of these people in those movies were so like, you are literally, s- can you sin anymore? Are you the devil? And John Kramer's trying to like rehabilitate them to wake up, and so I don't know. But the kill scenes, I get what you're saying.
Like 9 out of 10 of those people get mangled, right?
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
there's one
But
person at the end who's like, "Well, I don't have a left arm anymore, but I love life."
I
I,
mean that's why I like about the series. Now, granted, like you said, Dustin, sometimes I think they go over the line, and it's gonna like I think the earlier movies kind of were good, but then they just but I there's you love to see the people that are like complete trash, and then when they get killed, you're like, yeah, you deserve that. So that's how I look at it.
Well,
Revenge.
like there's like those Terrifier movies and like people like vomiting at at the screenings and stuff.
Is
Because
that the one with the clown?
yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen those.
I
I
haven't
haven't
seen
seen
them. I
those.
have
I've been
no
hearing.
interest in seeing them.
I've heard good things about though, or interesting things, I should say. Have you guys? So you said Mudge, you haven't seen it. Have you seen
Mm-mm.
Dustin? I'm guessing not, or the premise.
We've been watching the the Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix. If you've seen that or heard of
Dude,
that.
the Haunting on Hill House, like
It's the
that.
same group. It's the same group that
I
does that.
I know, but that really fucked me up. I loved that show.
Yeah, that's a great one. Have
Like,
you seen the Bly Manor one too?
no, I haven't. Because they fucked me up so bad. I haven't watched them.
The next one isn't as scary as the first one. So the first one is Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah, 'cause
Second
that
one
one
is
was. Woo,
Haunting
boy.
of Bly Manor. And it's same level ish, but not as like freaky scary. So watch it. And then House or the Fall of the House of Usher, it's kind of different. It's not like a haunting or a house or something. Granted, we still have 2 episodes to watch, but it's like I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's like it's more psychological than anything.
Yeah.
So
Well, now it's going to be the fall of the House of Diddy.
what didn't Diddy do? Isn't that on South Park? What didn't Diddy do?
That's where those spooky ghosts came from. Is all that lube that he had.
Man, talk about a rabbit hole we could go down on that one. That
Yeah, I thought I'd mention it because the Usher and Diddy relevance there.
there's a lot of other celebrities that are tied to that right now, aren't there?
Yeah, I don't know if Diddy's going to make it much longer.
Oh boy. Um, well, what Bogey kind of alluded to, I don't know if was that pre-recording that we were talking about that with the Halloween movie.
Yeah, we did a little bit, but then we dove into it when we started off. I think after so
Boy,
many
I think
minutes, we dove into talking about the theme this month. If we come up with some creative juices of like a horror theme. Did I lose you, Mudge?
I hear you now.
Okay.
You got me, guys.
We do.
Yep.
All right. Um, well, let's go to. I don't know if Bogey was talking about a pre-recording or if you were talking about it when we first started, but
It was a combination of both. We pre-recording we talked about it, and then we really had a section that we talked about. And your idea I think might have been the best. Maybe mine with the idea of Chewbacca being the beast in the forest.
yeah. So we want to get your creative juices going a little bit, Dustin. So first of all, our question to you is realistically, could a horror movie or a horror series fit into the franchise of Star Wars outside of like Tale of Terror or whatever that they have the Lego Halloween movie? Like, could you have a scary Star Wars movie and could it get received well?
Hell yes, and hell yes.
Explain yourself.
Well, so they kind of almost did horror in the High Republic with
The Leveler or
the
whatever.
leveler, right? And those creatures, right? So that's where I mean, honestly, if they just recreate that in film, I think that would play really well. Uh,
Especially that third book from phase one,
yeah,
when they're all on the
Starlight Beacon. Yep,
starlight beacon. And that's kind of like an alien type of scene right there.
yep, yep. Because I mean, a lot of those Jedi are like, they're literally being hunted by the creatures. So I think there, right there, you have already an example of them doing it in the Star Wars universe. You could also do the Drengar, right?
Hmm.
So that would be another one. But I mean, obviously, all the alien creatures within the universe, right? There's got to be some, that you could create that are just like horrific, right? Or you could just have, instead of all the contraptions, you just have Jedi or Sith just twisting people into pretzels.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's a
you're
lot of ways you can do it. I mean, you have a universe, I think, that's very conducive to it. Spaceships, which lend themselves to a lot of tight quarters, dark, uh, you know, lighting and things like that. Um, Obviously, alien worlds, lots of populations, maybe stumbling upon something, right? Like, here's a great way that they could do it. Like, you know, and this is kind of almost an homage to Alien, but you have maybe these explorers, right? Because there's all these planets in the Star Wars universe. Maybe they find a planet, right? And they uncover an ancient Sith evil, right? And it's terrifying, and it hunts them down, and they have to figure out how to survive. I mean, that's an alien plot essentially.
sure.
They could do it they could certainly do that in the Star Wars universe.
Well, and I feel like a lot of people would want to see an R-rated Star Wars because if you did something like that, I would imagine it's probably going to be R-rated or a show it's going to be TVMA. So,
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing though, like horror will never. I don't say never because that's too broad a brush, but it's very unlikely that a horror movie in any genre will reach the same revenue as like a non-horror, and that is honestly kind of common sense because you're limiting your audience just from an age standpoint,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like no one's taking their kids to an R-rated Star Wars film, right? So it just makes common sense that they're not going to make that much money. But like if you look at the new Alien Romulus movie that came out, which by the way it came out on Tuesday to buy on digital, I highly recommend you do that. But uh, you know,
When you say that, Dustin, do you think? I mean, look at the success of Wolverine and Deadpool, or Deadpool Wolverine.
that's more like a comic book, buddy cop film.
But rated R, gory. I don't know if you've seen it, but I'm
Oh, I've
sh
seen it. It's
I'm
very
sure
gory.
I'm sure there was parents bringing their kids to that movie.
Shane,
Dustin, was that gore too much for you, or were you able to handle that one?
it was not too much because you knew, like, because it didn't take itself seriously.
Yeah. And there's not the psychological element of it. Like in a horror movie, you're really going to trying to F up with people's minds versus Deadpool, Wolverine. It's more of like
A
a
comedy
comedy and
sidekick, like Dustin said, like
yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah.
these are
buddy
like
cop.
superheroes, right? Like this is not a world we actually
True.
live in,
True.
right? But we do live in a world of serial killers and psychopaths. So, like a Saw person could literally happen. Speaking of Saw, I don't know if you ever seen like the little YouTube videos of the like what it's like to live with Saw.
Look at the little guy on the truck.
Yeah, the little testicle. Do you want to play a game?
Yeah, I've seen that.
That kind of helped me, get through my Saw trauma. So
That's
you back
hilarious.
up. There are a bunch of mouse traps. Those are really good. But so again, to answer your question, absolutely, absolutely, you could have a horror film in the Star Wars universe, and I do think it'd be very successful. And like I said, with Alien Romulus, right? That just came out. They made triple, quadruple what their budget was. So I mean, that movie made a lot of revenue, a lot of profit for the studio. So that's more important, I think, to studios in order to make a film.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point, and especially consider Disney. Like, do we ever see Disney making a horror Star Wars movie? Not unless it was like a cartoon, like funny, scary movie type of a thing.
Well, maybe it just takes three bozos like us to just write an incredible script that they will probably steal, have us murdered, and then take all the credit.
Oh, I'm sure there's already like fan films out there that are a horror Star Wars movie. I'm sure we could find something, but
We talked about this last week, Budge, Dustin, that maybe just wait till the rights, if Star Wars ever, let's say 100 years from now, dies off, and all of a sudden, like the copyrights is like open for whomever. Winnie the Pooh came out with their their horror spin-off. So
Yeah,
what if
100 years from now, us three will be, doing like a brain podcast. Here's Star Wars. Oh, we can finally make a horror movie. Oh shit!
I'm just picturing Futurama, just our heads in like tubs of
Yeah.
water. But yeah, that's true. Have you ever heard of the Winnie the Pooh slasher movies, Dustin?
It's called Blood and Honey.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, that was
there's two
actually
of them now.
I mean, that was in pop culture for a while. It was a terrible movie, like absolutely awful.
Very predictable too, right, Bogey? Isn't that what
Oh
you
yeah.
said?
Dustin, I don't know if you know, they want to make what's considered a Pooniverse. Do you
Yeah,
know
so
that?
so like Tigger will have a his own horror.
Well,
Evil.
they're gonna have like Bambi getting revenge for killing. They're gonna have Pinocchio. Apparently, he rips the flesh off a boy and puts the skin on, like I am a boy again, or something like it. Just and they want to make, and then they all were unite like the Avengers or something like that. And it was just like, what the?
An end game moment for them,
Yeah.
or
And
Infinity
How
War.
high? Hey guys, what you should do?
Well, how much you want to bet many stories start out that way?
right, right.
On something at least.
Yeah, I mean Halloween is probably more cocaine than it is marijuana.
Marijuana, yeah. So to that point, Bogey, do we think Disney will ever give up the rights to Star Wars?
No, never.
It's too much of a cash cow, isn't it?
It is. Unless they're like we said, it's not like they don't have money, but if they're gonna keep pumping out stuff like Acolytes, well, maybe if it's continues that trend, will they like give it up? But like who else has the money to buy the rights to Star Wars? I don't know. And
Elon Musk.
yeah, maybe. Yeah. Good Lord.
First act or first Twitter, and now he's gonna buy off Disney.
Yeah, yeah. But
Do you
I
wish
could feel like
do you wish they would give it up?
uh, if
It's like a double-edged sword to it all.
If George Lucas could come back, but I don't know how much he's got left in the tank to with his creative juices. I don't. What do you guys think? Like, who else would have the money and like? I mean, look at Fox gave up all their rights to Disney for Marvel, like the Marvel content that they owned. Disney's just becoming a powerhouse that they just will get everything, but it's just I just wish they and so quantity versus content. Like, wish they
Yeah.
just reevaluate their game plan when it comes to that.
I mean, again, everything comes in cycles, right? So I don't necessarily think, in 5-10 years from now, it would be surprising that they rebound and start making really good content. Just like your favorite sports team, right? Like I mean, again, Minnesota sports notwithstanding, but you go in these lulls, and it takes maybe years, if not a decade to get out of it. They just need to hire the right people, and they need to stop focusing on things that don't make sense for their business model, or maybe reinvent their business model. And I do have some hope. I mean, again, so they bought Fox, so that gave them the rights to Aliens, and they did right by that. Um, I think with the Wolverine and Deadpool, they did right by that. That was an R-rated movie, right? Like you say. So, I mean, they can do it. They have done it. It's just a matter of them presented with the right idea when it comes to specifically us talking about the horror movie in the Star Wars space, but just in general for them to rebound, it just takes better leadership. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy ain't gonna be running the thing forever, so I have hope.
Yeah, I think that would be a true test to how things can be once someone new comes in. Like, do they make a drastic change? And if so, then maybe that will give people the hope one way or another. Like, okay, so Disney is willing to change in certain ways. So I think it'll be really telling once new leadership comes in. And by the sound of it, it's not too far away because if I remember correctly, Kathleen Kennedy said that she wants to retire after she has a big blockbuster hit. So whether or not that happens, or maybe she just has her mind set on like the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, and then she'll move on. Who knows? But
Well, and
I think that's not too far from now.
I mean, to be fair to her, in a sense, I've been watching just a couple YouTube videos of a guy who was a former Hollywood studio exec, and I mean, there's just so many voices that you don't know about that have a lot of influence in these
Yeah,
situations that are
sure.
pulling strings that obviously are not resonating with fans, but it's probably not Kathleen Kennedy making the decisions all by herself, right? Like Bob Iger's
No.
involved. I'm
Yep.
sure that's the case. Uh, obviously Kathleen, but the behind the scenes people that never really get mentioned. That is a huge set of voices that and for them, Kathleen Kennedy's the fall woman.
Right.
So
Well, I think the quickest thing that they can do, and easiest thing that they can do, is stop bringing in people that aren't Star Wars fans. Because I know for writers, they've been specifically looking for people that aren't necessarily Star Wars fans or have background knowledge of Star Wars because they want original thought, they want original works. So that was their strategy of doing that. And I don't know, I think there's just way too much knowledge and history to Star Wars that you really need someone that kind of understands the franchise to create a successful story. Because like if I think of someone that's going to create like the Old Republic, I want someone that has knowledge of what we already have of the Old Republic, like
sure. Oh,
Revan. Like otherwise, they're going to screw that up, make a lot of people mad. So I don't know. That's just my 2 cents on that. Um, so Dustin, the other question is in terms of horror movie, what would your horror movie be? So mine was I did you played Battlefield or Battlefront, right? With
yeah,
the second one.
I played all of them.
Do you remember the Ewok hunt?
Yeah,
Do something like that. Because like the Ewoks were led to believe to be cannibals because they were going to eat Luke and Han and Chewie and everything. So I guess that wouldn't be cannibals because they're not humans, but they eat people. So if you had like people lost in the forest of Endor and them getting knocked, down one by one of all these Ewoks, kind of like velociraptors in the tall grass, I think that would be cool. And then Bogies was like Chewbacca, like Bigfoot type of situation. Oh, I'll let you explain it.
Yeah, well, yeah, Bigfoot like in the woods. I say like a group of people went out in the woods to camp, and then you got this noise of Chewbacca in the background, and then next you know it, it's not more of a less a slasher, but a brutality because of his strength. He could just like snap someone in half or rip off a limb. That would be my kind of idea. Because I've always liked the Wookiees just because I have a fascination of the idea of do Bigfoots exist? And then when I saw the movie, um, when the Wookiees were involved or Chewbacca, I was like, that's Bigfoot. That's awesome. And like, so I don't know, I've just had a fascination. Chewbacca would probably be on my at least top five list of favorite Star Wars characters just because of my fascination of Bigfoot. Do they exist? Well, Star Wars says they do. So
It's going to be called Chewie and the Hendersons, not Harry and the
yeah, yeah,
Hendersons.
Harry and the Henderson chewing.
All right. So what about you, Dustin? What do you got?
Yeah, so I mentioned kind of like an alien film, like going to worlds and uh, unleashing some Sith, evil Sith horror. But what about like maybe even like in the Resident Evil theme where they're messing with midichlorians and they accidentally create this virus that turns Force users into this just absolutely like bloodthirsty creature, and you know, and you can make it Empire focused. Like they have to get out of the facility, uh, you know, very much like the first Resident Evil movie. Something like that, I think would be kind of cool.
That's a good idea. What
Yeah,
if
I
it,
like that idea.
can you have like Darth Jar Jar be behind it all?
You lost me right there.
Yeah.
I'm firing you right now from the writers' room for even suggesting that. I'm watching this Vince McMahon documentary. I'm going, you're fired.
Speaking of, I need to watch that. Maybe that's what I'll do before next week's um recording. Watch that Tales of Horror or something. That's the Star Wars Lego movie where like Darth Jar Jar actually shows up. It's like they flip, so like Darth Vader is now a good guy or something like that. So I don't know.
You could do
Maybe I'll
like
watch.
a TV series, Tales from the Crypt, but instead of it's Watto.
There you go. Well, the other one I thought, did you ever watch Unsolved Mysteries?
I loved Unsolved Mysteries. That
If you,
guy's voice is so iconic.
oh yeah, dun, 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 and the music, dun, 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 dun. Um, what if you did something like that and do different stories within Star Wars? And it's not really horror, but it's a
Yeah,
little
that's not.
more,
I wouldn't consider that horror.
it's more psychological, or I don't know. Could be interesting. But hey, it's tis the season. We're approaching Halloween, so we wanted to kind of make that a little bit of a theme since there's not as much going on in the world of Star Wars at the moment. But we are just short of 7 weeks away from the next show coming out, which is Skeleton Crew. So that's kind of Halloween related. I mean, I'm sure the show isn't Halloween related, but skeleton. Um, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. The trailer really did captivate me. I know we watched it as one of our podcast episodes and kind of blown away by it. A lot more intriguing versus the Acolyte trailers. So gives that kind of Goonies feel. So looking forward to it. Have you seen the trailer to that, Bogey?
No, I haven't. I'll probably check that out right
You'll have to
after.
check it out. It's really interesting because it starts out and it's almost like an earthly feel to it because you're like in a neighborhood, but you're in Star Wars and you like see different aliens like coming out of like the houses and stuff like that. So it's kind of a different take, but
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Something to talk about next week then if I get my
yeah,
thoughts on it.
December 3rd is when the first two episodes, I believe, will be dropping, and we'll make sure to bring our reactions from those when that comes. So, anything else? I know Bogey hasn't been able to watch more recent episodes, so he'll look into that for more next week for Clone Wars. So, really interested in hearing what you have to say. Dustin, I'm living vicariously through him from when we watched it for the first time. So, good old
I was gonna say,
memories.
if Dustin you haven't checked out our last week episode, you and Mudge put the bar down here, and I say it's been tolerable. I'm not yes, the
I'm saying
droids are. Go
the
ahead,
first
Dustin. What?
the first season is awful, but like it like goes like a rocket from there.
Well, he's saying he's enjoying the first season too, but I think
And I'm saying you're wrong.
No,
Well,
but I
you
think
guys
what we
put the
did,
bar so low that I
we
thought it was gonna be like not even watchable. But now I'm watching it, I'm like, well, I'm getting through it. Yeah, it has its moments where I'm just like, what the F?
See, you're
But
welcome because we did set the bar so low that you could.
but I think you put the bar so high as this. I was telling Mudge last week. I'm like, now I'm gonna go. I'm like, why you guys talk this up so much? It's not gonna. I'm just. We'll see when we get there. When we cross that bridge, we'll
I,
see.
I'm
But
I'm pretty
it's
confident that you will really love the later seasons,
season.
especially.
Yeah,
yeah.
I
I
can
mean, I look
almost
forward to
guarantee.
it. I mean, like you said, if it can only go uphill from here or like get better.
I don't think I've ever heard someone say, "Man, season 7 of Clone Wars sucks." I've never heard that, or I've never heard someone say the Mortis trilogy of the Clone Wars really sucks, and there's not much lore out of it. Like, buckle up. All right, well, we'll kind of keep it short today since there's not much going on. Any final thoughts from either one of you?
Just a recommendation. Obviously the Robert Pattinson Batman movie came out, and they have a show, a spin-off show called The Penguin
Hmm.
on Max. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, how far are you all caught up, Dustin, on
I'm
that?
all caught up. It's wonderful.
That's like, how do you describe that? It's like a Sopranos and
It's
Untouchables
it's
movie. I don't. It's
it's Sopranos. It's The Departed.
Departed.
It's Godfather, all rolled into the Batman universe. It has been a joy to watch. I haven't been bored 1 second during the show. Uh, and the fourth episode was, my God, like masterpiece.
You have to have seen anything else before watching that. I mean, the Batman movie.
There's one reference earlier in the third episode that you wouldn't necessarily get if you didn't, but you don't have to watch it. It's just
I've seen that Batman movie, so I know what.
yeah, but
Yeah, it's what
it is, you don't have to see it. It is the Penguin rising through the ranks. You don't need to know anything about him because you're going to get some of his backstory. It's just phenomenal, man. It's so well written. Colin Farrell is the Penguin. I
that's
promise you, when you watch the show, you will never once think that that's him.
great acting performance by him. And when he was in Batman, so that's all I'd say. That's the only thing you need to see. If there's anything that's going to help out, is watch the Batman with Robert Pattinson. That one. That's the only one you need to watch, and then it segues right into like the aftermath from that movie into this moment in Gotham City. And yeah, you're right. Colin Farrell just absolutely kills it. The prosthetics and everything he has to go through to like make that look of the Penguin is amazing. And I heard it takes them like an hour or two to do all of that, and then they start doing all the filming and everything. What a job he's done. And then
Better than Danny
along with
DeVito.
some of the other characters that
A
are
little
in
bit,
that show that you
little,
don't
little,
realize, like Mark Strong is in it. There's other actors that you'll recognize. They're like, wow, they weren't fooling around. They really wanted all the A-listers that they could just for a show that I think there's only eight episodes, and
yeah.
we're through four already.
Well, the character who plays Sophia, I mean, masterclass.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So, anyway, that's my recommendation. And then, if you haven't seen a show called The Silo, definitely recommend that. The second season's coming out November 15th, and there's a book trilogy about that. So, I know Mudge, it would take you probably 8 years for that to actually be read, but the show does a great job. You don't have to read the books, but the first season of the show is only like half of the first book. Very, very good.
And then
Well,
make
you
sure to
forgot one.
watch
You forgot one more, Dustin, of your suggestion list. Power Rings. I thought you said it was pretty good.
Rings of Power
Well,
Rings of
season
Power.
two.
you didn't even get the name right, so that tells you everything you need to know. It's a
You
travesty.
beat me to it, Bogey.
Here's the thing:
Was
I
it
wanted
is
to
it
like
is
the
it really
show.
that bad? Like, is it just not tolerable at all?
Dude, it's bad, man. Like it's like they think they're being clever, they're not, right? There's like moments where they're like literally like winking at the audience, like almost like, are you this dumb? And I mean they focus on the Harfoots were like supposed to be like, the hobbits before.
Early Hobbits.
First of all, there are things in the show that listen, okay, I'm not like a lore purist that you have to follow everything, but they just don't make sense. Like Gandalf, well, I kind of just spoiled something, but they do such a bad job of that themselves. But like those Istari are not even supposed to be in Middle Earth at this time, right? So that's like one thing, and then just how they give the orcs families. Okay, I'm not fucking kidding you. A sleazebag orc goes up to its wife and baby orc and gives it a hug. Think about that.
Boy, that's the Disney route to make the bad guys the good guys. What's Amazon doing? I do want to see it though. I will watch it. I didn't think the first season was that bad. I know a lot of people didn't like it. I thought it was okay, but
Like
I've
the
just heard
first
so much.
part of the first episode, like really, really good, and I was very, very hopeful.
of season two.
Yeah, after the first episode, I was like, okay, hey, you guys learned some lessons here. This is good. And then second and third episode, I'm like, what the fuck?
Has it all been released? Season
Yeah,
two?
everything's out now, so you can go watch. You can power watch it. You can Rings of Power watch it.
All right. Any final thoughts with you, Bogey?
No, I don't know if I'll ever watch that because I've been just hearing negative things from season one. The one show, given that we're kind of in this weird, scary, spooky, murderous, what do you want to call it, is highly recommend Monsters on
Oh,
Netflix
I do
with
want to see that.
The
Mhm.
Menendez brothers.
Yep.
That is really, really good. I'm maybe two-thirds of the way through. The actors that portray the two brothers and hearing the backstory of all that is just shocking, but yet like these guys are that whole family was messed up, at least from what the show was decapitating of what the relationship between the parents and the kids and just everything else. And it's funny too because I think after all like the kind of the rays of uh enlightenment of this story and this show, what's his name? It was a New York Knicks Mark Jackson, I think, is a basketball card of him playing, but in the background, courtside seat are the Menendez brothers
Oh,
sitting.
really?
Yeah, and it's going for like a lot of money right now, especially if you have like a 10.0 grade on it, whatever. And it's funny because I think when that picture was taken for that specific basketball card, it was like a day or two after allegedly that
The
the brothers
murders.
killed their parents. So I don't they don't dive into the show, but as just like a little side thing when I was researching it because I was hearing stories about this or basketball card that was going for so much money. I was like, why? I'm like, I don't even know who Mark. Maybe I'm dumb. I don't know who Mark Jackson is or something, but I named and recognized, but it was just because in the background, the two brothers were sitting courtside in the picture.
And that
Um,
the people who created or the creators of that are the same ones that did Dahmer, right?
yep, yep.
Well, hopefully a similar thing won't happen after that show because people were starting to dress up as Dahmer for Halloween. And I remember this time last year, Dustin, we were kind of talking about that and how, you know, that's not a good thing to do because
No,
there are still people that are around that were impacted by that. So don't be dressing up as like the Menendez brothers or anything because that's traumatizing for some people.
it is. Yeah, for sure.
Just goes this.
But yeah, it's definitely educational. I'd say that's one of my suggestions. It's a good watch. It sometimes has its moments where it's maybe too much if you're not into the whole like murder gore scenes. They keep reenacting because there's a lot of flashbacks and whatnot, and then also with other issues that I guess I don't want to dive into that show kind of. gets into. But it's it to me it was an interesting story. Like I said, I'm almost finished up with it, but it was been a fun watch just to know that this actually happened in life. That
Yeah.
and they in this story, I guess is based off the Menendez brothers have been in prison for life, and they finally came out and gave their life story of
Mm,
what occurred, and that's what this Netflix series is all about. Is
got it.
based off their word.
And
So
it's a reenactment. It's not a documentary, right?
yes, yes. There's also a documentary, but this one monster that's just a reenactment.
Okay.
And the actors they choose perfectly portray. When I see like a photo of the actor and a photo of the real person, I was like, they did a perfect casting. So,
Nice. Which for my final thoughts, that just reminded me of the show Baby Reindeer, if you haven't seen that.
oh God,
Because they actually the person who lived that is actually the actor of the guy in the show. Have you heard of Baby Reindeer, Dustin?
Yes.
Seen it. It's kind of a creepy show. So if you want to watch it, go for it. But my recommendation, definitely go see or definitely watch Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, and then The Fall of the House of Usher. All good shows. First one, I don't know. The first one I said was better, and then as I go on, they're not as good, but they're still good. But all right. Well, I think we will wrap it up there. I will just speak to our social media handles really quick. So you can find us on Twitter at DetBlockAA23pod, on Instagram at detention_block_AA_23, our Facebook group and YouTube channel, Detention Block AA23, a Star Wars podcast. And then find us on TikTok at DetBlockAA23. Hit that subscribe button, bring us your likes, follows, downloads, our ratings, reviews, all of it. We greatly appreciate it. And see, even though not much Star Wars is going on, there's still plenty to talk about in terms of the festivities of Halloween, scary movies. We're all nerds. We'll talk about any of it and all of it. But yeah, have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your week. And we'll be back next week to talk some more Star Wars and more. So we'll catch you guys later. And as always, may the Force be with you.
And that's with the links.
Yeah, go Lynx. Bring some hardware from Minnesota.